You're listening to Living Beyond with Hope. Hey, that's me.
Welcome to the podcast. This podcast is meant to help you realize you're more than a label, and you too can create a life you love despite it. Each week, we bring you tips and inspiring messages to help you take the positive steps in your health that will allow you to live beyond. Now sit back, relax, meal prep, or take a walk as you dig into today's topic with your host, a gal living her life to the fullest with type 1 diabetes, Hope Mangiafico.
Okay, so what I'm talking about is my diabetes exercise routine, and it is interesting because a lot of people say, and you might have heard this at some point or another, that you should eat to your meter. I definitely emphasize eating a low carb, high fat lifestyle, and no matter what your meter says, unless your blood sugar's low, you will typically benefit from eating low carb, high fat. And if you're low, just making sure you don't consume really processed carby foods. But one thing that I can't emphasize enough is actually using exercise as medicine and rather exercising to your meter. So for me, typically I wake up now that I have worked out all my kinks with insulin, which has been really fun. I have managed to wake up in a really good range, and throughout the whole day, my blood sugar stays stable. However, if my blood sugar starts to rise for a reason that I don't know, or maybe I consume more carbohydrates than I gave insulin for, and again, if you know me, you know I prefer not to take a ton of insulin. So one way that I incorporate exercise into my daily routine is to do some light cardio. And when I say light, I'm not talking about huffing and puffing and feeling like you're gonna fall over and die, because that actually is going to counteract what you're trying to do. That's actually going to cause you to have an increase in blood sugar. Over a decade, honestly, as an active kid and as someone that's always enjoyed lifting weights and doing all that fun stuff, I never really understood what cardio was. And to be honest with you, having diabetes, cardio has a different definition, and it has a lot to do with intensity. So if I'm a little bit more elevated, I'll simply go take my dog on a walk. That type of exercise will actually bring blood sugar down. Again, it has to do with intensity. However, if my blood sugar is low, and when I say low, I'm talking about the 70s, not like below that, because then you really need to supplement with carbohydrates, good carbohydrates, I'll do a little bit of something intense as long as my energy level is there and I'm not exhausted from being low, because if you have diabetes, you know that a low blood sugar can leave you feeling like complete crap sometimes. But if I have the energy level, my workout routine for that day will incorporate something high intensity. So like what I did today, I did some really extreme high intensity exercise. It was only a total of 40 minutes, including a warm up and cool down. So you can imagine how intense that routine was, and it made me skyrocket. I started at 120 and I went to 228 within that time frame. I didn't give insulin, which I always tell you, I was playing around with something and I shouldn't have. I always tell you to give insulin when you do something really intense like that, and I didn't do it. So if my blood sugar is lower, then doing high intensity exercise like that will actually help get you in the right range. Or it still might make you go a little bit higher, but if you give just a little bit of insulin, it'll all even out. So it's kind of trial and error, but for me, I will do high intensity if my blood sugars are on the lower end, or I will strength train. And again, I go in much more depth with those types of exercises in particular, in exercise and diabetes, the how-tos with insulin. So what I find, this is the key to diabetes success, and this is really how, if you know what your intensity is, how you can work out on a daily basis and still have stable blood sugars. Especially, and I hope you hear me out on this is especially important and significant if you still eat a decent amount of carbohydrates. If you do not eat a lot of carbs and you focus on fat, your blood sugar after a while will typically remain stable. However, if you're fighting a lot of lows and you're consuming a lot of carbohydrates, the key to have stable blood sugars is fluctuating between cardio and strength training. Because if you think back to everything I just previously said, they kind of counterbalance each other. And of course, it's different for everyone, but you could either start with strength and end with cardio, or start with cardio, end with strength, or go back and forth, see what works for you. But that is how you can have success. And that is how I find, if I'm eating more carbs because my blood sugar has been low, and I know for a fact that there's glucose in my body for energy when I prefer to have fat, doing this alternating kind of thing helps stabilize my blood sugar. So for me, my daily workout routine looks a little bit different each day. And of course, I'm always kind of doing trial and error and trying to figure out like how much my diet influences how I work out. Exercise is my medicine, but it goes beyond that. And while I encourage you to always exercise so that you feel good and have a boost of confidence, it starts with nutrition. So you have to kind of exercise to your meter, which ties in with food. I hope that you can now start each day and think about how your blood sugars are and how you will work out to your meter and what your meter says. It makes a huge difference in overall blood sugar management. And that plus your nutrition will lead you to diabetes success. It can be complicated, but it doesn't have to be. It can be simplified, and that's what I'm trying to show you, is it can be simple to be successful. Hey, you still there? Thanks so much for hanging out just a little bit longer. I greatly appreciate it. If you found this episode helpful or even a little bit life-changing, it would mean the world to me to have a review in iTunes. A review in iTunes just lets me know that I am actually providing you with the correct guidance and mentorship that you need to live beyond your label and to be confident in who you are. This episode was also brought to you by my next step guide in embracing your label with confidence, which is called Choose to Live. In Choose to Live, there is a checklist of what to ask your doctors. There's an audiobook. So if you like podcasts, an audiobook filled with affirmations to remind you of who you truly are, what you're really made of, as well as some really like homework and checklist and guidance for your family members so that they can support you along the way. This episode was about community, and you cannot do this journey alone. So if you're interested in learning more about Choose to Live, just visit www.icanlivebeyond.com, and you can find that in the show notes as well at livingbeyondwithhope.com. And otherwise, I will see you on the next episode.